So I'm going to talk a little bit about how to pitch, but I'm also going to talk about habits and pitching as a habit, which is something that I think is really important because we think of pitching often just in the sense of selling something, selling a product or service, but we pitch every day to our colleagues with an idea, with our feedback, to our families, to our friends. It's something that we have habits already ingrained in our minds on how we do it. So becoming aware of those habits can help us pitch better, because ultimately when you're pitching, you're really trying out for how you can contribute. So somebody may have the greatest idea or the best feedback, but if they're unable to communicate it, it doesn't get into the project. So that's why I think pitching is really important. And you probably all have some people in your mind that are really good at pitching and maybe some others that aren't as good at pitching. And think about, for the ones that aren't as good, do you ever feel like they could contribute more? You know, there's moments where they're trying to give some input and it just comes across, and the worst case scenario is that people get so irritated that they dismiss them, and even the next time they come to bring somebody to the table, they're given less attention. So that's why I think pitching is really important, and the concept of pitching as a habit I think is a very interesting angle. So I'm going to talk a little bit about habits and how we can change our habits. Then I'm going to share a few key principles for pitching that I think will really help, and then also a very simple and helpful template for pitching that can basically take any one of your ideas. It's a great starting point for you to create it into a pitch. So habits are something that are hardwired into our minds. This is something that has been proven through neuroscience. It's in the prefrontal cortex. Daniel Kahneman is a Nobel-winning economist and psychology professor, and he's broken it down very simply into, our mind has what he calls System 1 and System 2. And System 1, and these are modes of thinking. So System 1 mode of thinking, these are the habits, this is the reaction, this is how we know to tie our shoes without thinking about it, brush our teeth. And this is how we approach a pitch when we're not aware. We have habits of how we communicate, and they're hardwired in. System 2 is the mode of thinking where we put a little bit more effort and we think. But what happens is we're lazy and we don't want to think. So every chance possible, we just default to a habit. So if you're not aware of having an interest to improve on your pitch or something, you're just going to keep pitching the way that you have been. So being aware of these two modes of thought and that it takes effort is how you can start to change a habit. And I think it's a good analogy to think of habits as a stream. And you have a stream of water flowing, and it knows its direction. It's carved a groove into the ground, and in order to change that direction, you have to really you have to dig out and create an alternative route. And that's what you do in your mind. You create an alternative route, and you do that by practicing. And then System 1 will pick it up once it becomes familiar enough. So in order to create a new habit of pitching, you have to practice. You have to practice beforehand, you practice delivering your pitch, and you practice after. And slowly but surely you start creating a new habit where it just becomes like tying your shoes, and you'll end up choosing that by default. And a side note about practicing, lots of people don't practice after the event. So whether you're giving feedback to a colleague or sharing ideas or selling a product or something, a lot of the preparation goes in beforehand. Then you deliver and you're done. This is common in school and all of these situations. But actually for your mind, what's most important is the practice you do afterwards, because that's what we remember most. It's how situations end. It's how meetings, it's how conversations end that leave the lasting imprint in our minds. There's a study by Dan Ariely, who's another behavioral economist, about patients in hospitals that had painful surgeries and what their perception was of how the surgery went. And what he found was that people that experienced very high levels of pain, but then slowly tampered off the pain, they had better opinions, better feelings about how the surgery went than those that had less levels of pain, but that the experience stopped right there. So even though in some their pain was greater, because of the way it ended, they had a better memory about it. So if you have a pitch, or if you have some meeting, and it goes a certain way, let's imagine it goes poorly, or you feel it could go better, if you stop right there, your last memory is going to be how poor it went. And that's going to be your stream of dominance. So take the moment and practice after the game, right? You want to create that new path to the point where it becomes your habit, okay? So I'm going to share four key ideas that I think really help for pitching, and also kind of just general communication principles. Opening strong and finishing strong. The opening of a pitch is the most important thing, particularly in a business setting, because think of the habits of your listeners. The listener is just waiting to judge you and place you in their mind. Is how worth my time? How worth my energy? Are they going to kick me into system 2? Am I going to give them my energy? Or am I just going to dismiss them, right? So having a strong opening gives you that quick win, gives you that first impression, which is going to earn you the attention for later. Closing strong is like what we just spoke about, because it's going to be seeding their memory, right? So the middle is less important. The whole thing is important, but opening strong and closing strong is far more important. Because most listeners, think about yourselves right now. How throughout this conversation, you probably had little branches of thoughts, right? And that's normal. That's what everybody does. When we're listening in conversation, we're looking for connections to bring something to that conversation. So we are not 100% there. If you're 100% there, your only response is, yeah, I'm with you, right? You're not really having a conversation. You're just there. So be aware of that and open strong and close strong. The second idea is be aware of your audience's profile. Everybody is unique, but we all have common threads in our personality types. So there's several models that go into this. I like one called Egos, which breaks people down. Everybody is a mix, but you have 4 dominant characteristics. You have E for entrepreneur. You have which is people that are always looking for the end result. They want to hear just why am I doing it, just the benefits. Tell me quick, don't waste my time. They're the guys that get in the elevator and they're hitting the button. This is a very common profile for managers and executives. The G is for governor. These are people that are focused on process. This is common in engineers. These are people that tell me the story. Don't BS me about just getting the benefits, the pot of gold at the end. Tell me how we get there. Prove it to me, all right? And this is also common in management, more operations. Then you have the S, which is social. These are the people that are, who is this person? Are they okay? Are they in a good mood? Do I connect with them? And then you have operational, which is just kind of what's next? What are we going to do? What's my next step? I want to get my hands on, right? And so being aware of who you're talking to and pitching so that you can relieve them is a really good way to extend the value of your contribution. So 2 basic, just to distill all of that into 2 ideas. Don't worry about the socials and don't worry about the operationals. Just try to place people on whether they're dominant entrepreneur or dominant governor. So are they interested in the end and the vision? Is the entrepreneur, or are they interested in the process, the steps to get there? And tailor your pitch, so that you can think of it as the destination pitch or the journey pitch, the destination for the entrepreneurs or the journey for the governors. And that'll help connect with the audience, it'll help respect what they're interested in hearing, and it'll help you give your contribution. The third is something that I call the attention account, and it's just, it should be common sense, but we forget about it a lot because we're so caught up with what we want to say that we don't think about just the basic sharing of space and sharing of conversation. So when I'm talking to somebody, I'm asking them for their attention, all right? And they don't have to give it. They have a ton of other things going on in their life. They may not be interested to give me that attention. So the analogy of the elevator pitch is excellent because you're physically constrained to that ride in the elevator to get across your message, right? And we should always remember the elevator pitch and the earning of attention. So you start with some 15 seconds or 10-second intro of what you want to talk about. If they're interested, you go further. You take another 2 minutes. If they're interested, you go another 5 minutes. But you don't give them the 2-minute spiel before they've had a chance to speak and just lose their respect right out the gate. So there's actually a really funny app that is called Tachometer, and it measures the balance, the share of voice, the distribution. I don't suggest breaking it out in your conversations and putting it on the table, but keeping that in mind and just making sure that you're not dominating the conversation will help a lot, because people like to talk, and pitching is just an individual perspective. Really, you're communicating, you're having a conversation. So think about the attention account and earn the attention. The fourth is also about your approach, and it's kind of more on a big picture, is what I call the gift approach. And you want to gift somebody your pitch. You want to gift it to them, like share your enthusiasm, share your connection, your excitement. You know, don't. The alternative to this is the kick me approach, which is kind of the if you have a few minutes, I'd love to just share my idea with you. I don't know, and it's kind of, what are you telling them? You're saying, if you are willing to give me more attention, I'm going to put you in a bad mood, and I'm going to share with you my disappointment. You frame it from the beginning in this kick me, kind of self-abusive way, and so be aware that you're asking for attention again, and that you want to gift it to them. And a note about how to give that gift is find your authentic voice. There's an author, Tim Ferriss, that talks about how to find your voice, and he's like, speak like you're talking to a friend after 2 drinks. You know, clean it up for the audience, if you're in a boardroom, and it depends on your friends, but use that tone, find your conversational style and express yourself in a way that is going to be authentic. So, those were the 4 keys that I think will help your pitch. Now this is a template. It's called a message map, and it's really simple, and it can work for almost any pitch. It's basically like this. You take the main idea and you put it into one phrase. Then you come up with 3 supporting attributes. That is your 10-second pitch. So the example that I'll give is for a soap company, and it's that. So it's for a soap company called Lush. I don't know if you know the company, but Lush makes handmade soaps and cosmetics, and everything in the store is fresh, environmentally friendly, and part of our profits go to support ethical campaigns. And then you be quiet and you wait for the response. So you can take any kind of idea, any complex thing, break it into one main thing. So it's an application, it's a service, it's an idea, and I think it's good because of X, Y, and Z. And then you wait for the response. You earn the attention, and then for each of those 3 attributes, you build out a couple supporting stories. You put in your stats, you put in your references, and that's when you get your 2 minutes after, your 5 minutes after. So using the message map and breaking it into one top line phrase and 3 supporting attributes is a great tool to come up with an initial pitch for anything that you want to express to people. So that's what I had to share with you guys. If you have any questions, I'm happy to chat about it.